Hello and welcome to the second edition of our event called Let's Ask Expert. It is an event delivered for you by the soft skills stream of the Global PA community, where every month we are having a discussion with various different experts on different topics that you, at the end of each of the episodes, will have the possibility to choose. And at the end of the first episode, when we were talking about the art of public speaking, we gave you the opportunity to actually vote for the topic for the next session. And the topic that you voted most for was the topic of assertiveness. And that's why this is the topic that we have covered for you and prepared for you today. So any questions you might have, please feel free to write them in the chat. We'll be addressing those to our experts today. And our experts, we have an amazing crew collected for you today. So we have Maria Grebenikova, who is a senior product manager at EPAM. So Maria, welcome to the event. Can you please tell us a bit about yourself and introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. Thank you, Jan, for this opportunity. Thank you, guys, for joining us today. As Jan said, my name is Maria. I'm with EPAM for over 15 years. I have various backgrounds, but through all my activities and all my assignments, I was very passionate about empowering and actually helping others to find their powers, their strengths, but at the same time uncover weaknesses and how to turn them into power, and hence solve problems and get better experiences for themselves and for everyone around.
Glad to have you here with us, and I hope your experience and the things that you will share with our audience will be helpful for their growth. We also have Łukasz, who is a Scrum Master here at EPAM.
Yes, hello, thanks for having me here. So I'm the oldest one here, even from the 24 years in the IT industry. So my superpower, like you're seeing here, what I learned during my long experience is that I always look for a common goal and common value that everybody understands. And if everybody has this understanding, it's easier to push any initiative in any form. So maybe that if we're going with this summary, so that's me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Łukasz, for being with us. And we have also Jakub Siwiecki, whom you might potentially know from hundreds of L&D training sessions that he has conducted in the past as a former training and development specialist. But now, as he transitioned to the software engineer role, Jakub, welcome to the event. Can you also introduce yourself?
Well, you did this already, so thank you, Jan. But hi, everyone. As Jan mentioned, yes, I used to rather help with some skills development than what I'm doing right now. So I'm helping now to optimize some big data and this kind of things. But yes, referring to the topic, my baseline, my experience is around 16, 18 years in soft capital area outside EPAM. And now I think it's fourth year here at EPAM. So previously I mostly spent the time as an external consultant helping individuals, teams in many areas, including, of course, assertiveness.
So thank you so much for joining this event, and also hoping to have good discussion with you. Couple of rules of engagement for our audience: that feel free to have an open mind. This will be a standard conversation with the experts on the topic of the assertiveness. Grab something to drink, grab something to eat. It's very important to stay hydrated regardless of the time of the year. And you can raise your questions in the chat. If time will allow us, we'll address those questions, especially those ones that will be most upvoted or will have most reactions caused by you. And without further ado, I think there's nothing more to say, but let us begin having the discussion, having the conversation. So not to distract you with the presentation itself, I will stop sharing the screen and I will have the opportunity to exactly put the attention to our experts and to have focus on them and their answers. And let us start with the very first basic question I have for you today. And from your point of view, what is assertiveness? How would you define assertiveness, and how it can relate to your day-to-day work? Because each and every one of you has a different role, plays different experience on your projects. So definitely that would be something useful for our audience to get to see how we can look at assertiveness from various different points of view. Maybe Maria, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. So from my perspective, assertiveness, and in some cases is also referred as assertive way of communicating, is the way how we manifest ourselves, because we have our interests, we have our needs, we have our wants and goals, and everything what we are doing is how we manifest ourselves. So assertiveness is a way to manifest ourselves when we are communicating very clearly, very directly, our needs, our ideas, our goals, but at the same time, when we are making it in a very ecological way and respectful to the same of others. So we are not trying to enforce our needs or our ideas, but we are just sharing them and showing that we have them.
Thank you so much. Łukasz?
Oh, you caught me off guard. Okay. When I think about assertiveness, I think about a bar. Exactly. Yes. It's
Bar.
an acronym. Yes, exactly. It's an acronym I came up with. I don't know, maybe somebody else came up with that. So it's borders, it's activeness, and it's respect. So when I think about being assertive, it's all about knowing what you want. I think it was mentioned, but it's all about treating others in a way you want to be treated. And you need to have this always in mind. And it's so broad that it should be learned properly in school, I think, in the kindergarten, even because it's a basic way of solving things, because you get a chance of expressing yourself, like Maria said, and you know yourself, you know that others have other needs, and you kind of solve it in a way, in a peaceful way, in a respectful way. So that's what I think about assertiveness. And I think in the following questions, we'll investigate what are the challenges and how we use this assertivity in our work environment. But I think that's the basic question for now. Answer, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Jakub?
Well, everything was said, to be honest, because thanks for this acronym. I would steal it from you, maybe modify a bit, because for me, when I think about assertiveness, it's not only the part of like a communication. It's not only saying like no in many different various ways, because I think, Maria, you use this this word like it's a way of manifesting yourself. So I believe it's something that you manifest sometimes verbally, but sometimes like assertively, maybe you just want to achieve some goal and you're doing it in an assertive way as well. So that's the reason why I would refer mostly and accent that part of like activeness. That was the part from BAR acronym, because like that's the first time I hear it. So activeness. So I actively respond to what environment does to me, or just like how it behaves, and I actively respond based on my. You refer to borders. I would treat it as some kind of like element of values, because values, I think, like borders are coming from values, and they might switch from time to time. So I prefer this way, but I like the bar itself, so I'm not going to violate the acronym. So yes, so cut to the point. I would say this is like active way of reacting to whatever happens or whatever we want or wish to happen. So actively we do something.
Now, in my years of training sessions or mentoring with various people, one-to-one conversations, I get the perception that there is some negative connotation with the word assertiveness. Why do you think that might be? What might be the reason why people identify assertiveness as something negative? Let's demystify that and maybe try to put a bit more positive light on the topic, if that's a possibility.
Should we just like? Okay.
You need to select, Jan, because everybody is eager to speak.
Yeah, we're just holding ourselves. I just went to the second round. So Because we're also in March, I will also take a stand, unless Jan, you would object, also from women perspective, because especially for women, being assertive very often is treated as being bossy. And this is very often mentioned. And like, it comes from the point that it's expected, like by society, that to some extent, we are more agreeable, at least we expect it to be more agreeable. And as a result, when you're assertive as a woman, then like, oh, you don't want to agree, you don't want to cooperate. So this is where the negativity is coming from. We need to spend efforts to deal with you, but actually what you are doing, you're standing for yourself. And as far as you are respectful to others, this is what actually you need to do in order to not fall into passive mode or not get into that much of frustration that you become aggressive. So you need to stand your ground. You need to be very clear, very direct with what you want to achieve, what you want, what is okay, what is not okay. As Jakob said, where are your boundaries, where are your values, and where are you not okay for them to be bended. So you don't want to look for, you're open for compromise, but you don't want to step back and let your boundaries to be broken. And also society need to get more receptive with that like this is normal behavior, this is not something specific to gender, and like this is what all people expected to do. They need to understand their boundaries, they need to understand their values, they need to be respectful to others' boundaries and values, and act and manifest themselves in a way when they're like standing their grounds, but also not trying to invade other grounds. And this is for me where some like negative connotation, negative challenge comes from gender perspective. And as I said, like I'm referring to this also because we are in March, which is Women's Week, Women's Month, and we have a lot of events. So yeah, this is my take on that.
There is also the reason why we have this event exactly on the 21st of March, because in Poland, this is the first day of calendar spring, which students from school treated as the first rebellious act of saying no to school, and they just decide to go away and skip school for one particular day. It's like a tradition in Poland. So we just thought that, you know,
my
saying
son
no
maybe
to
is
school.
close here. Shh.
And
No,
he
just
might
kidding.
hear that,
Just
right?
kidding. just kidding.
Yeah, but that's, you know, that's like the first act of rebellious nature from people, right? So yeah, but thank you so much, Maria, for sharing. Jakub, Łukasz, do you have anything to add
Of
to
course.
this topic?
Jakub, you can go first because we need to switch, and I'll be the lucky one at the end saying everything was said.
Okay. A pleasure to give this opportunity to you then. So from my perspective, as I mentioned, like most of the time before EPAM, I spent in training events, consulting events, referred to human capital. I did like plenty coaching, etc., etc. And I remember the beginning of, at least in Poland, but it was like coming from States mostly. So I think I can refer to the broader perspective of courses about assertiveness. When they like evolve and pop up, and people were taught how to be assertive, guess what? They were taught to say no in many different ways, of course, and that's all. And people were just like living this, and they were just like, oh no, no, and then like let's say like it's like I would say that was like treated as some kind of like ninja tool, like those metal stars. It has some name, like the boss comes to you and say like, hey, kindly, of course, can you do this? I know that it's like out of the scope of your responsibility. Like, no, and this kind of things. And there was like I think from my perspective, like a huge gap. Like people who are teaching assertiveness forgot about that assertiveness is like functionality. When we develop some functionality, it's not free atom in the that flies somewhere in the vacuum, but it has some connection, right? And as well, the same is with assertiveness. It's a potential skill, but it refers to the whole society, how we interact with others. So, of course, excluding those dumb, silly ghosts, I would say. Those people, they need to be treated this way sometimes, maybe. But generally, if we think about assertiveness, I would say like let's treat like softly people to build some bridges if it's possible, of course, but definitely be assertive to matter, to some issue, potential issue. So I think this is the main route from where this negative connotation comes. And the second thing is connected with partially with Maria mentioned about women and those challenges. I would I would ask like a rhetorical question, like, but what does it mean this, like when someone is standing this way, right? Like probably like you already have some connotation, or maybe someone told you that it means that someone is closed, and we can read that like I'm closed. Like, hey, I was even taught this like when I was learning how to teach people in the room. Whenever someone is sitting this, cross legs, cross heads, cross hands, then arms. Then you should do something, because that means that the person is not processing your information. But guess what? If you check this, it's like it's not like that. There's no research, no study about this. That means only that maybe someone is cold, or someone likes to touch himself, herself, doesn't matter. So there is as well this part of like that people, they have their own perspective, and that something that like it's difficult to handle, because you never know what kind of perspective someone will have, and that comes to the way how we do this assertiveness. That's, we need to take this into consideration, that someone might have a completely different perspective than we have.
Not to mention that the cultural concept can also come into play, because in some of the cultures, this is identified as a power pose, meaning I am presenting you the strengths of my capabilities, right? So not necessarily a close
Half
pose,
of the business pictures is with crossed hands, so that could be so true. I jumped in because I couldn't wait any longer. Thanks for leaving me space to answer the question. Okay, so when we are talking about assertiveness and bad connotations, right? I think that it's not about saying no. It's not only that. And Maria, thanks for the this gender specific thing. It's really true. So thanks for bringing that up. But it's not about saying no. It's for me, being assertive is treating others with respect. Like the ninja stars you said, say no to your boss. There's nothing bad in saying no, right? It's all good. But being no and giving no context is very aggressive. It's like putting a wall and there is no discussion about it. And being assertive is, my point of view is this and that. And that's why I can't do what you want me or you're requesting from me. That's the whole idea. It's showing my side of my universe. That's why it's very important. So I hear you, I respect you, but I can't do it because of. And that's the major difference from saying no, which is almost passive aggressive, and for a proper assertive response. So other thing, which is a danger with assertiveness, when I think why it's bad and why people are learning it, is it's also, let's go back to the no, that they fear the boss. So if we've got a culture of fear, even the best training won't help you, because it's very hard to work in an environment when you truly fear somebody, right? There's no room for discussion. So that's why people may need assertive training, but in reality, it's not a cure for this situation. The manager should be having trainings from fearless company culture or something like that. So that's one thing why assertiveness may be understood in the negative or less effective way. So maybe that's the thing. Thank you.
Jan, I know that you. Sorry.
Go on,
No, go
Maria.
ahead, Jakub.
Maria, please.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to take small, play around the no word. So if we talk about assertiveness, as Lucas said, it's not about just saying no as a wall, but explaining. But what you can also think about, you will be saying no to something which put you in a position where you are not okay, and your person or people with whom you are interacting, you're respecting them. It will also put them in position where they are not okay. So this is where you are saying no to something which is not okay for you and not okay for others.
I know that, Jan, you have some agenda,
Follow-up
but I would like,
yeah.
I just need,
Sure,
because like,
sure, go on.
Łukasz, you mentioned a important thing. I think both, like all of us, we probably talk about the same. It reminded me one of the study, it's not a research, but study about professional negotiators. And when they compared the professional negotiators with those who started in this role, they noticed the difference in the way how they say no. And the difference was not by just saying like no or kindly no. It's not about this. It was completely about the structure of this reply. And it was rather about first explaining, reasoning, and then saying no in different ways, of course. Why? So that, like, Łukasz, you know probably why I'm connecting to you, because you mentioned that the explanation this could help here. So why? Because our brain works this way, that like if you trigger some emotion, then your frontal cortex that will manage you will won't be helpful here. So if you have a customer, if you have your boss, if you have your family member, doesn't matter who, they always have frontal cortex, except the furniture and this kind of like things. So because you can practice as well as being assertive to like all objects that are around, right? If we talk about being the verbal way of assertiveness. So why? It's important because if you say no first, then the emotions will pop up, and then you will decrease your chances to proceed, and you will probably get worser result than just like saying, explaining, it happened this, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. So because of this and that, and then saying, I cannot do this, or sorry, I will just reschedule, and so on. I know it takes time. I know that it's obvious because people, they will understand where you're heading already. Like it will be obvious, but it will help a lot because it won't be like this, like, no, like to the wall. So yes, thanks for mentioning this.
Jakub,
And also,
it's even, now my turn, sorry. Jakub, I think it's even for people who struggle with saying the word no, this way of answering, first showing the context and the situation. If you're speaking logically, sometimes you don't even need to say no. You can reverse the question. Do you get my situation? So you don't need to respond no, because they already understand, and they may call back their request or something like that.
Exactly. I remember one person that I coach. She was preparing to say something to her boss, something about like that she cannot be involved in this project, blah blah blah, this kind of things. And she approached her, so it was difficult for her. But she approached her and said, "Hey, I need to talk to you. It's very important, it's very urgent. Sorry, I cannot do this now, and can we talk about like in 2-3 hours?" And then the boss came back, and she shared this, like, sorry, I think it's too much for me to, like, we prepared this. She explained everything, reasoned, of course. And the boss said, "Oof, I thought that you want to just like resign." No worries. No worries. Like if it's too much, it's fine. But I thought that you want to resign. So I think, yes, you're right. Like reasoning can be helpful for people, like maybe not for people, because sometimes people are very assertive, very confident, but in the relation to someone, it might be more challenging for them because it's some, I don't know, CEO or someone who has this kind of personality. So I think it's like rather like the relation of two people. If it's more challenging, then probably reasoning can help. Yes.
And actually, as each and everyone of you has a different background and different role that you play on the project or day-to-day work. I would like to ask you, what are the challenges that you might be facing when it comes to the assertiveness, and how to overcome those challenges? Because, for example, one of our colleagues in the chat has asked a question about how to handle people, especially if there are clients who feel threatened by the boundaries that you set, and sometimes even disregard them. I think this is especially, Łukasz, good question to you as a Scrum Master. Whenever there is a customer in the middle of a sprint giving a very high important requirement to the scope, how in that case respect those boundaries?
I'm going first.
Yes.
Awesome.
This time.
One more time, Maria. Everything, all the best in March for you, in women on the call and everybody. Just forgot about it earlier. Okay, what's the strategy here? And when we're talking about assertiveness, it's all about partnership, right? Partnership is about respect. So we need to, and the challenge, what you said, the CEO is coming with something important. What we need to remember that the argument of force can't be, it's not valid, because if he's pushing and he's requesting and there is no discussion about it, so we need to escalate. Are we discussing or you're requesting? He's the client. He can do anything else. We're just, are you asking me to do something or not? That's the most important thing, to establish, is there room for discussion or not? This discussion is made, the risk is that the danger of this, and describing a lot of things. You should show that their work, that their request is destructive in a way. So first, if they want to discuss with us, we need to agree that we're that the communication is clear, right? We need to know what's the request, why it's done, and then we just need to figure it out. If we know that they value our input, what we're responding, it means we need to both adjust. If it's important, we need to find room. We're agile, for goodness sake, right? It can be done, but it's important to remind them that we are all here because of something. I am a Scrum Master. My role is to keep the Scrum processes right? You CEO are paying me for having Scrum, right? So if you're breaking the rules, it doesn't make sense, right? So remember who you are in this organization. Okay, one last thing before I think with assertiveness, it's important to also to be, I wouldn't say it's brave, but courage is important. You need to know, stating your ground was mentioned several times. So you need to know why you are in the organization. And if you know why you're there, it's much easier. And if you're not lying, which is also important, that you are not lying, you're telling the truth, what can go wrong? And this gives you a freedom of speech with others. So that's the challenge, I think, that the CEO requesting, and that's my experience.
Thank you so much. Maria, what about your challenges and way to overcome them?
Yeah, so I think for me, there are two sides of the challenges, and I will take my product manager hat here. So for me, first challenge is how I can use assertiveness to make sure that my team or teams actually creating what is bringing the value, and they actually buying into that. So if I won't be assertive with them, if I won't be clear, if I won't hear and respect the challenges that they are raising in terms of the boundaries, in terms, for example, like extra, like constant overtimes and so on and so forth, I'm risking to burn my team, and I'm risking not to produce the right value. So this is like for me where I need to like all the time keep myself in check. Am I clear and direct? Is like clear what I'm asking for, and also like am I hearing my team? Do I respect all their needs and actually take them into consideration? Again, like maybe in some cases they might be unreasonable, but again, this is like person's perspective, the view, and we can look into that and clarify and get to the same ground, that everyone is clear. What is the challenge? What is the experience? What are the feelings? And how we can deal with it. So this is one side of the story. On the other side, still, as we are dealing with the clients, this is where it can get trickier. And I completely agree with Lukasz here that even with that side, we need to also take the stand, like be assertive, but at the same time, you need to understand the consequences, because like on one side, you don't expect that something can happen, something negative can happen, but it is happening in some cases, because people like who are not that assertive themselves, who are mostly falling into like aggressive or passive aggressive stance, they can react differently. And this can backfire. But like, what is important for you here? Do you want to stay assertive and, like in my case as a product person, to secure my product, to secure my customers, to secure my team, and potentially take the fight? Or actually, like, I don't see that I will win and I will just deal with consequences. But still, for me, it's always important to be assertive, to be very clear and respectful to others, same as I expect for myself. And I had numerous cases where I needed to do that, and the outcomes were very different. In some cases, I was getting big pat on the back that, like, great that you insisted and you proceeded and you clarified and still heard everyone. In other cases, like, I achieved the right results, but then it was like, yeah, the result is great, people are happy, teams are happy, product is good, but manager might be not that happy, because again, he or she can be like in the wrong stand themselves, and like, you just will need to deal with that conflict. But the point here, especially when we are dealing with clients, what is your end goal and what you are, again, in terms of your values, ready to stand until the end, let's say.
Jakub?
I noticed one comment that probably I would like to refer just in a second, but you asked about the challenges, right?
Yes.
So
how you overcome the challenges in your work?
Yes. Łukasz said that if you say truthfully describe and say everything that
The truth
you
will
want
set you free, right?
Exactly. Always. Then nothing wrong will happen. I recall this. Maybe I'm not fully quoting properly, but more or less that's the point that I got.
Paraphrasing.
Trying to paraphrase at least. Yes, I believe that always everything can go wrong, because that's life, and we never know. So we can only wait and prepare for unexpected, because it can always just like, hey, I'm unexpected. Like, you're waiting for me, yes or no. But still, I completely agree with Łukasz what he said about, like, and this is referring to challenges, because like we never know what kind of challenges will happen when it comes to assertiveness. If we react accordingly to our values, that can help us. But there is this tiny trick. At least here we are inside organization, right? So the challenge is that we need to connect our values, our needs, the organization needs, because EPAM has its own values, and the main point is to keep as well customer happy / as well like signing new contracts potentially. And I think this is like quite challenge because sometimes we might be forgetting about this. And I remember I used to do some during a training about some kind of exercise when we took many reasons, like people were wanted to say no because this. Usually they refer only to their own needs or their own perspective. But when we move and like let's like we jump to a different perspective, to the organizational perspective, the customer perspective, at the end usually it was like that the the bridge that can build our communication with the customer, and using the same arguments, but like glue it to the argument of money, or like avoiding some failures, avoiding some issues that may occur in the future, that helped a lot. So I think the challenge is to find this glue that will find the keys that can help to open the mind of the second person. But that needs us to get out from our perspective, look at this from the third, let's say, perspective, of like the overview, and think like, what is important for this person? And just use this kind of, again, I don't want to use like arguments, but a bit different language to name the same, but in a different way, adjusted to this person. And one of, I'm not sure is Yola here, but she's as well our colleague from EPAM, Yola Momot. I discussed with her this topic, assertiveness, and I remember that we came with some algorithm about assertiveness. Maria, you mentioned about this as well in a way that you refer to, do I want to fight? Like, am I ready to fight? So something that I was suggesting people to apply was just like 3 simple questions. Is it the proper time to say no? Doesn't matter what kind of way, but no. Because like, if you see that the person is already irritated, maybe you will like fail. Maybe this is like, even if you like have like the whole back of many different tools, techniques, and good reasons, still it will fail because that was a bad day. Then the second question, am I a proper person to do so? Because Łukasz, you mentioned like sometimes you need to escalate. Sometimes you just need to step back and say, okay, let me discuss this with, I don't know, some manager or project manager, doesn't matter. And the third one, is it worthy for you? Do I want to do it? Do I want to fight? I a bit, I don't like this like word like fight, because it all like it put us into this position, but I'm just referring to words that were used. And this third point is as well important, because the question is, do you like, I know that I mentioned like it's worth to follow the truth, but do you want to be right, or do you want to be effective? And that's the question that we, all of us, I think we need to always to answer to ourselves. There's no like simple heuristic or algorithm, because maybe today, if I just say no to myself with this, maybe I will gain much more in the long run. So is it worth for you this time to do it? And that's, I think this is like, it's not always about, again, saying just no, and I feel that it's not for me. It's about looking at this from different perspectives. So I would refer, the challenge is to get outside from our perspective, look from different points, different perspectives, or let's say angles, and then to come back to ourselves and say, okay, yes, that's my plan, or no, I will do something else.
There is even an African proverb saying that sometimes it's better to have a peace of mind than to be right. And sometimes it's, better to let go. Like, I had a situation once on a project that, after doing the discovery phase on the project, I asked the customer to sign off the scope of the project. I was told that they will sign off the scope once they will see it live in production. And then I said, well, at that time, you can sign off the solution, not the scope. And I went to the project director and I said that, sir, I will not let my development team work on this project until the customer will sign off the scope, because it can lead towards a train wreck. And the project director said, Jan, you're absolutely right. I 100% agree with you, but this is my project. I am accountable for the project. So we will start working on this, even if the customer will not sign off the scope, right? And at that time, I kind of, shared my thoughts, shared my concerns. But at the end of the day, if that's what the customer wants, if that's what the customer is expecting, that's what they are paying for, not always makes sense to fight all of the fights. But Jakub, you touched the topic about the values, right? Okay.
And I forgot one thing that I wanted to connect to one of the comments, but Łukasz.
Okay, I wanted to refer to the fight word, which was improper, of course. When I think about proper assertive discussion, it's not about winning or losing the situation. If you win, somebody loses, which means for me, everybody loses, because it should be a win-win situation. A true assertiveness is, I understand your point of view, what you said, Jakub, about knowing angles and so on. It's all about sharing a common picture. And to achieve that, especially with the client perspective, I believe Jan said the word value. This is the bridge that glues everything together. If we understand value in the same way, that makes this discussion simpler, because we've got a common ground, and this is the value. We understand when things are happening. The challenge is when we don't have that perspective, when they have a different goal, or the goal is hidden, and there is agenda, and we don't know what's happening and why it's happening. So that's a tricky thing. Another, if I may, I already took the space, so of course I can. I think about a challenge that may be, because the question was about challenging. What happens if you are working for somebody that has different values? That you are like suddenly you're working for a pharmacy, and there is something grayish going on. I'm not saying somebody's doing some crooked things, but if there is, I think this is the biggest challenge ever, that you are contributing to something that is bad, or you are contributing to something that is done in a bad way, because and that's where the very assertivity comes to play, that you need to stay your ground for moral purposes. And I think that's the true definition of being assertive, because you really state your ground, and it's not some easy peasy thing. It's life and death. So I think that's an important thing to, I think that's the biggest challenge, when you see that you may lose your job, but you are keeping your ground for moral purposes. I think that's the biggest challenge ever. I hope I never have it.
So that's exactly what leads to my next question, because at EPAM, we do have those various different values, right? So we have the focus on the customer, we have act as a team, we have act with integrity, right? So sticking to our beliefs, sticking to our values, right? So from your point of view, when do you think apply which method? When is the right time to focus on the customer? When is the right time to focus on the team? When is the right time to act with integrity? Maybe let's start with Jakub first.
Well, to be honest, I wanted to refer. I forgot to refer to one of the comments, but you already
So
moved
before
to a
answering
different.
the question,
So I'm trying to connect it somehow. So let me maybe just start referring, and maybe I will be able to refer. So someone mentioned, Michael, that we Brits do tend to do seen as too diplomatic sometimes. I remember my negotiations with before joining EPAM. I used to cooperate with one of the companies that. Is based in Britain, and the negotiations with CEO, like I wouldn't say they were like commonly perceived as British negotiations. They were like rather tough, I would say, and that is connected with some other thing that reminds me. Like I used to work with entertainment industry domain exactly. And I remember when I went over there, that was like my change from, let's say, this level of delivering training and companies that I used to cooperate with, this level, but a huge entertainment company. And I went, like maybe not suit, but I was really prepared for this. And I entered the room when I met the CEO. The CEO was all of the tattoos. He was swearing a lot. And like it was completely like completely different world comparing to what I used to know from different industries. And to be honest, I think that even if the culture, I mean, like Polish culture, British culture, German, like doesn't matter. There is always individual culture. individual culture of the company, individual culture of the person, individual culture of the industry as well. From the back, I remember many stories about like how I was helping as well, coaching, for instance, someone who was an expert in domain, was like acquired to join some new company, some different company from completely different domain, and the only problem was that he was not adjusted to the values, not to the expertise, to the values. So well, we like there are some ways to help in such situation. So it's not always you need to say no, because it was not about that they were doing something against his values. He was just like communicating in more, let's say, rough way, and they got used completely to rather to human-oriented communication. So trying to refer somehow with those the question about values, I think it's like it always depends. So maybe let's just finish on like with that. That it always depends. But again, I think it's like the one thing to remember about that, it's always about being aware of the person on the other side of the table, or maybe not other side, because it's again like fighting, but the person that you cooperate with. So if you're aware what are the needs, one story. Many years ago, I was buying a flat, and the flat, when I visited the place when they're building the flat, I noticed that they put a very tiny fence, like I don't know, 50 centimeters, because my flat was on the ground level with some garden, tiny garden, like 50 meters, 20 meters, something like that, a garden. Yes. And when I noticed this, I noticed as well that there is like another fence way further from this one, and it's like a high fence to some technical road that it's like over there. And I called the company, the developer who was selling and building this house. Hey, can you just like take this tiny fence? This way I will have like, better, like real garden. And they say, no, it's not possible. But I know that like, if you want to be assertive with your goals, then like probably one, no, it's not enough. So I try once more. I hang up. Okay, I understood. I understand. Blah, blah, blah. Next day I call them again and say, hey, listen, I have this great idea. We discussed about this fence, and I thought that if you take this fence, then you will gain, you will benefit, because you won't need to spend money on this fence. I noticed that you you need to buy this product, right, this item, and you don't need to take care of the further grass area, grass, because I will be taking care of this. So like win-win, right? And they say, oh, it's not possible, but let's maybe not think about this. And I said, okay, but who is of course the person who can decide? We thought, can you discuss, can you tell them that they can benefit, blah blah. And 1 week later, the person came back and say, you know what, like we discussed this, and together we decided that we can do this for you. And now I received like 120 meters of garden, no extra charge. And plus,
persistence is the key.
It might be, but I noticed as well that they changed it because they were building they were constructing other buildings in the area, and then they stopped putting this tiny fence. So I think, like, again, they benefit, their perspective was just like money, probably nothing else. Helped to push I cannot find this, like, let's say to understand that my ideas are really good and value for them. So not using to push my idea. So again, perspective.
Sure. As we are approaching slowly the end of the event, I still have a couple of questions, so I will move to the next one. Very quickly asking, because Łukasz, you've mentioned a very important thing at the very beginning when you've mentioned about assertiveness should be taught in the kindergarten. And my question in general, which could be valuable for the audience, is how do you think we can develop the assertiveness skill? And what are the techniques to practice the assertiveness? Yes, Łukasz, starting with you.
No, Maria this time. Let's
Okay.
give her a chance.
I'm voting for Maria.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Maria,
Okay,
you've been volunteered.
Yeah, I've been volunteer. So before going into your question, Jan, I wanted to say something about the word for whatever reason that was perceived like as a negative and referred as a negative. So I will try to be very assertive here, the fight. So we have constructive and we have destructive conflicts, right? And this is okay to use both terms. And the same when we are talking about fight, it's also different perspective. One thing is when you are fighting with someone on the street because somebody is attacking you or you are trying to attack someone. Very different thing is when you are fighting on the, for example, boxing ring, when you are trying to get the title or like this is that kind of sport, right? So you both have goals and you are entering this fight with the goals, with respect to each other, as we can see with like not all the boxers, for example, but some after the fight, even they kicked each other nicely for like 12 rounds, then they're patting each other, shaking hands like, well done, you won it, like without any like cheating and everything. So it's fair win, well done to you. And another perspective can be like sparring fights. So, and this is where when we're talking about being assertive, it's to some extent sparring, and this is where Jakob's example is good. So you are entering into a like to some extent fight to achieve something, and if you are doing sparring, you want to grow, you want to get better results, you want to become better yourself, and in that way, if we are talking about fight from that perspective, this is a really good fight because everyone benefits. And you are growing and you are achieving your goals before maybe potentially you will go to win your world title. So that's why fight is not always bad. It's very often good, same as like conflict can be very good when it's a constructive conflict. And coming back, Jan, to your question in terms of how we can develop assertiveness, I would say the first and the main challenge is that not everyone understands their values and their boundaries. So this is where we need to start. So, and there are different ways in terms of the kindergarten. I wouldn't be able to answer that. I have no idea at this point. But overall, this is more like reflecting, like learning how to reflect, learning how to understand what is important for you. Is it like what's important for you? Is it ecological for others, for the society? Because like, again, something important can be not particularly great. I'm not talking about this audience, but it can be the situation. So you're checking it against your like your values, your moral compass, like how ecological in that it, and you actually assimilate it. Like, yes, this is important for me. This is what is my value, and this is my boundary. So I'm happy to do so and so and so, but I'm not happy to do so and so or be in this situation. So you need to understand yourself first, and in some cases, as I said, like self-reflection can help. In some cases, like different techniques, like additional trainings, coaching can help. So, but we always start from understanding ourselves, understanding our boundaries, because without that, we don't have the reference point for ourselves, and we also don't have that much reference points for others. Because if you don't understand yourself, how can you understand somebody else?
That's definitely very wise words. Thank you so much for sharing those. Jakub?
So the last
Everything was
words
said?
were yes, completely.
No, there's plenty to add. Go, Jakub,
But okay.
go.
But to be honest, like I'm just like thinking about, like I have many thoughts about in this area. So do you have, like, Jan, now like very precise question that you would like me, because I know that you have like the idea of questions. So do you want me to refer to? Because then I will just refer to some things that are in my head.
We have the question,
okay,
asked
okay.
about in general.
Okay, so when it comes to the teaching, this skill, like I know, like I think that like everyone knows probably or notice that some people are better, some people, like with singing, like some people are like they burn with this, some people, well, they need to teach a bit, and some people maybe well, I'm one of those. Like I probably you don't want me to sing, even like 1,000 kilometers away from you. But still, like I think it's doable because I've seen cases that you won't believe. That like cases from person who's like far from being assertive to really assertive. Handling many challenging situations. Definitely, I can recommend coaching. I was doing it several times with people, and it was very like coaching gives nice momentum to change because you individually can work on this. Training, of course, it can help as well. Not those trainings that only teach you like how to say no. However, it was mentioned, it is still important, of course. It was mentioned, I'm just checking, diplomatic English by Irina. You can find it in our chat. I really recommend you this because it can give you, especially if English is not your native language, it can give you a set of tools. But remember, those are tools. They are not your attitude. And attitude here and your approach to being assertive is quite important. From the kindergarten, well, uh, it's difficult. We can discuss about this a lot because like I'm a parent and I can just imagine that I could be pushy to my son or my daughter and say, hey, you must share your your toys with others, for instance. But then like what I'm teaching the person, am I teaching like being cooperative or being assertive, saying no when the kid want to borrow something? Like it's a tiny line is between those two things. So with kids it's a bit tricky. I think, and I mentioned this, that you can practice as well to furniture, to your dog, to anyone. If assertiveness it's a tricky thing for you when it comes to the communication, really you can practice it alone, because verbally teaching, like practicing assertiveness is as well important because people will hear your voice. People wouldn't like maybe not fully aware of this, but they will feel this and they will react to this, how you say this, how you verbalize, how you accent this or those words. So I really recommend, because if you practice in your head everything looks like, perfect, but outside it's more complicated. So use your voice, practice this. When I practice with people assertiveness, I ask them to, we do some role playing. They say, they write on the paper even like what they wish to say, to learn some techniques like we did not mention this, like broken record, for instance, like how to use paraphrase and say no, how to refer to, like how to put the person in a different perspective by saying, for instance, like that I want to clarify, you want me to finish this task and now to start something else, to show that accepting some suggestion from someone will change your plans, and then the person need to start dealing with your, let's say, challenges, how to manage and accept someone's suggestion for another task or another scope in the sprint, for instance. So there's like many ways. I'm still like have some afraid when it comes to kindergarten, but definitely like my youngest person that I had a consultancy with about assertiveness was a girl with like I think like 15 years old or 16 years old, and it was really helpful for her because that was affecting her relations at school. And believe me, kids are awful sometimes to each other, really awful, and assertiveness helped her a lot. And definitely she lacked of this. She only needed some tools. She only needed some, just like how to say some things. And guess what? She never, after she learned this, she never used it. She never used, well, I don't know now, but like with those people that we discussed, she never used it because then she started to become so confident that she said, I don't care, because she had this power already. So she just let it go.
Mm-hmm. And last question I have for you for today is, how do organizations such as EPAM can foster the assertiveness alongside with the work of team collaboration and teamwork?
Previous question was better.
I noticed that Łukasz, he raised his hand.
Really?
Yeah, Łukasz wanted to wave us. Like,
may I?
Of course.
Exactly. I want to relate to the previous one because it's. I want to calm everybody down. Assertivity, or whatever you say it, it could be taught. There are techniques. Jacob said a lot about it, but the most important thing, I think, is the first step. And the first step in being assertive is respect. Respect for others, but what is more important, respect for yourself. Respect that it's not okay to do things that are hurting me. And it's not like, it may be obvious, but it's really hard. And if you want to start being assertive, you need to remember this one thing. Everything else apart from that will be simple or simpler. But remember about taking yourself into account. Don't hurt yourself. So that's maybe one thing I would like to mention regarding the last question. How do you want to foster assertivity in corporations?
And not break the teamwork and collaboration as well at the same time. So where to find the balance between one and the other?
So what? Teamwork? Okay, for me, if you want to be assertive, you are working on a common goal, and the vision is the same, and you are working as one team. You said focus on the customer earlier and focus on the team. It's the same thing. We're a team. The customer is also a stakeholder. He's the product owner, whatever. We're working on it together. As long as it only works when there's trust and they share communication with us. They keep us in the loop. They take our opinions into account. So it's all about teamwork. I don't want to take more time, but it's if they trust us, we trust them. If we are a team and see our different point of view, everything will be fine. That's short answer for this question. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Łukasz. Jakub, Maria, would you like to add something to this?
Maria, I already stole a lot of time. If you wish, of
No,
course.
you can go ahead.
When it comes to this, like, I think like everything already was said, because Łukasz said, like, for instance, like we are like the team, right? So like a micro silo, if your perspective, our perspective is micro silos, like that I'm the, like, I don't know, data engineer, I'm the scrum master, I need to push those guys, I need to discuss this, like, or the customer is outside this silos. We are EPAM team, and that's not like everything is connected. Like everyone want to gain something. Of course, sometimes there are some crashes. Maria mentioned about this, like not proactive, but like positive conflicts that are normal thing. But just like trying to build, this is my way. I try to build as much as possible at the beginning to push a lot of energy and effort to build a good relationship, to build a good rapport from at the beginning, because then with time it can help you. Like it's like putting a seed. It can help you a lot. If you don't establish a good connection with your colleague, team member, project manager, DM, doesn't matter who, customer, doesn't matter who, then you might lose. I'm referring to this, like, but really lose your opportunity, because with time it might be too late. When sometimes something will happen, or you want to something, and if you don't put this effort at the beginning, then well, it might be too late. So I would add this element. I think we did not mention this, that like if you try to establish a really good connection, sometimes I do even too much at the beginning to explain why I'm doing this, why I do this, etc., to give the better context, because in the next steps, I know that it won't be necessary. But now I'm helping the customer or someone else to understand my perspective as well, and to clean, and let's say to be on the same page. Again, because the person could have a different perspective, I might be a different perspective, and we might be going in two different directions with time. And if I don't secure this by clearing this and saying, we are here, let's go together, at the beginning, then it might be after 1 month or something, we might be completely in different universes. And then the clash and the need of assertiveness might come, but you won't have this. I'm trying to find the good naming for this kind of like etherical thing that can help us to connect. But I don't know what it could be. Like the window of opportunity to connect, something like that, maybe.
Okay. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jakub. Maria?
Yeah, and I wanted to add, just from EPAM perspective, we are talking, and leadership talking a lot about like leading, being example, growth and everything. And if we want to grow assertiveness as an organization, we need to talk about it more. We need to make it more visible that it's encouraged, it's expected, and it's also promoted in the right way when you respect yourself, when you respect others. And it needs to be, I'm not saying that it's not, but it needs to be demonstrated and also call out, similar like when we are developing some skill or when we develop some muscles, you need to have repetition and you need to see it. And like at some point you will start to see it yourself, but initially you might struggle with that. So it's good to call it out, to point to it, just to say, you start to notice, okay, like this is what assertiveness is. Here it was manifested. This is what is expected, and like constantly promoting to make it more visible, to make it more spoken about, and for people to start to reflect and like build it into their like routine and willing to actually develop it proactively.
Thank you so much for sharing this answer, and thank you for sharing the answers in today's panel. I have a very quick question to the audience that I shared in the chat with you, the link to Mentimeter, where I would like you to vote for the topic of the next event that we would have in our Let's Ask Experts session. That will be planned for May, as in April the session will be held during the BA Excellence Conference, for which I invite everyone to join, subscribe, and register to the event. Also, talking about the word no itself, I don't know whether you heard this, but if you're a dog owner, a friend of mine who is a dog owner told me that the word no has a tense, because when you say one quick no as a sharp single word, then your dog is about to do something wrong, and it relates to the future tense, and you want to prevent the dog from doing this. When you're saying no, 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 it's present tense. Your dog is about to do something right now, and you want to tell them off, and you want to stop them from doing that. But when you say no, it means that this is the past tense, because your dog has already done something bad, and there is nothing you can do about it anymore. But that's just like a small joke while we wait for people to share the response in the chat.
I think it relates as well to kids, from my perspective.
Could be as well. Could be as well.
Maybe even to the project as well.
Could be. But as we are waiting in the chat for the response from our participants, I would like to ask Łukasz, Jakub, Maria for a couple of closing words before we finish the call. Łukasz?
Good luck. I don't know. Okay, it should be fancy and it should be something like a power speech at the end. Everybody, please care about yourself, care about your boundaries. It's important. You only know what's important for yourself, so don't let others mess around. State your ground. And if something is pushing and you feel uncomfortable, just say no.
Thank you so much, Łukasz. Maria?
Yeah, so like saying similar to what Łukasz mentioned, think about yourself. like don't undervalue you and don't sacrifice yourself, but also respect others, and invest into understanding yourself, understanding what is important from you, understanding your values and your boundaries and how you can stand them.
Jakub?
I think referring to what you said about dogs, I would suggest everyone to invest in dog to practice now. But jokes aside, I think like if you start treating each situation when you want to say no, or you're planning to say no, or you already said no, as a training for yourself, and if you start treating each atomic situation with time, you will get from this many different lessons. So not only training is important, but the real life is the real training. And if you start learning from this, thinking how I could behave in such situation in future, what are the alternatives? Let me think about it. This is we call it in psychology, we call it like contractual thinking. Sometimes it happens when you argue with your partner. Very often, like I could say that, why I forgot about this. This is a contractual thinking, and this is a natural thing to learn. If you do this, if you apply by thinking about other scenarios and you start trying to apply them in the reality in the future, I think you're in the best position ever, because then your life, when it comes to assertiveness, become the whole road of development for you, and then you can just enjoy it.
Thank you so much for sharing this. And as we can see from the voting, the topic for the next event will be the cross-cultural communication. So stay tuned and stay open for further announcements and further conversations and further notifications about the topic in regards to Let's Ask Expert. And today, let me just once again say a very big thank you to everyone who joined, actively participated in the chat. Let me also say a very big thank you to Maria, Jakub, and Łukasz for dividing their time to share their expertise. And it has been a great pleasure conducting this meeting for you today. Let me just wish you all a wonderful rest of the day. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy. And I do hope to speak to you again in the upcoming future.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Łukasz. Thank you, Jan. Bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.